Mama Drea. Today we are going to be doing delicious chickpea balls. They are healthy and they taste just like little chocolate chip cookies. So what are we going to need to make our chickpea balls? We need a can of rinsed and cleaned chickpeas. We will need some peanut butter. You can also use almond butter if you prefer. We're going to need a little bit of maple syrup. We are going to need some coconut oil, cinnamon, vanilla, and salt, and lastly, čokoládové or baking chocolate. So you will also need a food processor for this. It's super easy. All we're going to do is we're going to take our chickpeas, we're going to put them into our food processor, make sure none of them roll away. Then we are going to take some maple syrup, and you need 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. So 1, 2, 3. I kind of like to spread it around in there a bit. Okay. Next, we are going to need 4 tablespoons of our peanut butter. It really doesn't matter if you get the smooth or the chunky kind. It's up to you. So 4 tablespoons of peanut butter, or almond butter as I said. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now we have our 4 tablespoons of peanut butter in there. Next we need our vanilla. It is 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Woo, spilled a little there, that's all right. So 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So now I've got my chickpeas, my peanut butter, my maple syrup, my vanilla, and last I'm gonna put a little pinch of salt in there. And I'm gonna put it in my food processor, and I'm gonna turn it on, and I'm gonna pulse it until I get a nice smooth consistency. Ooh, it's getting creamy. Now, once it starts to get creamy, I'm going to add about a 1/4 cup of my chocolate chips. Now, I don't have chocolate chips, so I usually just buy čokoládové, and then I just cut it into little squares. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, I'm going to cut about half of this bar of baking chocolate. I'm going to save the rest for after because we are still going to cover these in chocolate when they are done. So, I'm just going to take my knife and I'm going to cut strips. And then I'm just going to turn my cutting board and I'm going to do the same thing going the other direction. It really doesn't matter if they're not the same size. So you get your small little squares, and now I'm going to put them into the food processor with the mixture. Oops. Clean up my mess as I go. And I'm going to put it in again, and I'm going to pulse it again. Okay, so now that my mixture is done, I'm going to take it out of the food processor. Out of the way. And now I'm going to take my mixture. Be very careful to make sure that you take out the blade so you don't put your finger in there. It is very, very, very sharp. So get all those goodies out from inside there. And you'll see when you smell it, it already has this nice, almost like a cookie dough, just this nice flavor and smell to it. It's wonderful. And I'm putting it all into a bowl. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up the rest of this bar of baking chocolate, and I'm going to mix it in there as well. So make sure you get all those goodies out. You don't want to waste anything. So here we have it in our bowl. Okay. mix this in. Okay, now the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to get some sort of a plate or a bowl, and we're going to roll these into balls about the size of a ping pong ball, and then you're going to put them in the freezer for about an hour. So, tastes so good. Ooh, and we almost forgot one extra thing that I like to add to these, which we can go ahead and put in now before we roll them into balls, is a little bit of cinnamon. It calls for about a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. I usually don't measure, I just kind of sprinkle it over there. But if you want to measure, a 1/4 teaspoon is about what you should be using. So, again, we're going to mix that in there, make sure it really gets all mixed in. Now I'm going to make them into little balls about the size of a ping pong. Now this will get messy. Don't worry about it though. I promise you, you will not mind licking this off your hands later. So take a little bit, roll it very gently. You don't want to press it because if you press it, you're going to get more stuck to you. So just very gently roll it, make a ball, and put it on your plate. Take another bit, roll it. Very gently again, no squeezing. Put it on the plate. Take another bit, roll it, and put it on the plate. And you're going to do that until you have no more of this dough left. And then you're going to take these balls and you're going to put them in the freezer for about an hour, or you can put them in the refrigerator for 2 hours. You want to make sure that they get really nice and solid, because then what we're going to do after is we're going to melt some baking chocolate and we're going to cover them in it, and it's going to be delicious. So come back in about an hour and we will go ahead and put these take these out of the freezer, and we will put some chocolate on them and then try them. Our chickpea balls have been sitting in the freezer for about an hour, so I'm going to get my chocolate little recipe thing ready. I'm going to take my baking chocolate, I'm going to put it in a bowl. Now you can either use a microwave to melt your chocolate, or you can use a double boiler that you use at home. Just fill a pot with water and then put another bowl on top of it with the chocolate mixed with the coconut oil inside. So we'll start with maybe a little more than a bar, because they do need quite a lot of chocolate to coat them in. Now, if you don't want to completely cover them in chocolate, you can also just sort of drizzle them in chocolate as well. So let's start with, let's say, 1.5 bars. And we're going to do our 2 tablespoons of coconut oil to go in there. So 1. And 2. Now, if you are using a microwave, don't put it on right away for a minute. Do it in like 15-20 second blasts, mix it, and then do it again. So let's put it in the microwave. Let's see. Okay, so chocolate's done. I've mixed it a few times. It seems like it's all melted. Look at that, how nice. No chunks, nice and smooth. Beautiful. Okay, now we need a little bit of parchment paper. Back to my giant roll of baking paper. And I'm going to use this Tupperware because this will need to go back in the refrigerator, so you will need some space. So you don't want to use something too big that you can't then fit back in your refrigerator. So I'm going to take my parchment paper. I'm going to line my Tupperware. And now the fun part starts. So, as I said, it is totally up to you if you want to dip these completely in chocolate or if you want to just drizzle them in chocolate. So, if you're going the dipping method, I suggest using a fork and a spoon. So, you take your chickpea ball, dip it, turn it, and then pick it up on the fork. so that all that excess chocolate drips off. And you're going to put it in your tray with your parchment paper. And we're going to do another one. And you basically continue until all of these are covered. And then you're going to put them back in the fridge 30 minutes, max an hour, and they will be frozen. Not really frozen, but they will be hardened. And they are like delicious little chocolate chip cookies covered in chocolate when you bite into them. And they are relatively healthy. No sugar in there, just a little bit of the maple syrup. There is just the chickpeas, and yeah, pretty much except for the chocolate, which is even dark chocolate. These are a relatively healthy snack that you can do. And besides waiting for them to freeze, they are pretty quick and easy. They are already hardening just sitting in that tray. Now just try when you put them in the tray that they don't touch each other, otherwise they might get stuck. My balls are now covered in delicious chocolate. I'm going to put them in the refrigerator, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and they will be nice and hard, and you can go ahead and eat them. And what we have next is our leftover little chocolate. Now, this is anybody's dream, so it's up to you what you want to do with it. I wouldn't suggest eating the whole thing. You might get a stomach ache, but you should definitely try a little bit. It's like chocolate soup. So good.